welcome back to Trip to the Mound. Again, we are the iBaseballChannel podcast. You may notice we're trying a little different aesthetic here on the couch. You know, we're getting our new equipment into the mix, the new studio. I mean, there's some amazing work going on around us, and
we're about finished off here.
Yeah, Andrew's been doing some great trim work in here this morning. It really looks nice.
Finishing up nicely.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So again, we talked a little AL in our first segment, and now we're going to talk national. And specifically, again, we do favor the West, but we're staying out here. There's just some fantastic baseball happening out here.
Yeah, there's a Freeway Series going on or coming on down there. The Giants are, scuffling a little bit, but then they have a lot of weapons, and those weapons become available, like Bumgarner throwing a shutout the other night, and so they're going to stay in it, for a while, and hopefully they get their guys back and they'll get back into it. But it's gonna be interesting.
Well, and one of the things about Bumgarner that I find interesting too, and you really saw this in that last start, is that his motion is so slow and fluid that when it works, I mean, it really is a thing of beauty just to kind of see that.
Exactly, because those are big, long, heavy limbs swinging your way, and it doesn't have to have a lot of, real fast twitch motion, but there's some big, heavy, meaty, strong arms getting slung your way, with a baseball in there, because he's a big dude.
Yes, he is.
He's big.
And swings a good bat, and that should always be
trouble, man.
Yes, he is.
He's my kind of player, man. He's not an out at the plate. Pitcher that's an out or not an out. That's a pretty good piece of equipment to have in your equipment bag as a manager, because now it's not an automatic pinch hit. Fifth or sixth inning, you can get another inning or two out of that. You want to leave the guy in, but you're like, you can't even bunt. It's like, get him out of there. And you're forced to go after that one run. Whereas a guy like Bumgarner, you can leave him in there and not worry about pretty much anything. He can bunt and go deep.
Well, and I think one of the more reassuring things for the Giants also yesterday was the fact that Tim Lincecum really gave them a good outing, a good solid, 5 innings plus, but it was the Giants bullpen that really came through for that, and that's always one of those things that a team likes to know that they have in tow come the playoffs.
Well, they've had some arms down there, and it's just a matter of kind of guys finding their way. Romo's been scuffling a little bit, so his job's on the line a little bit, and it kind of forces the action. And so I'm sure Boch is gonna get the guys in there, that he wants. He's not gonna mess around. He's gonna try to. They're still in the wild card thing, and that's playing a huge role. And I'm sure how he runs the club and some of the pitching changes that he makes.
Well, and I'm sure that they hope that all goes well. We've been hearing about the continued rehab of Angel Pagan. It sounds like he's going to try a couple games out in AAA this week.
That's right, he's in Fresno.
Yes, and see if he's going to get himself ready, because, again, that's a big piece for them going forward.
Well, he's lucky it's not 108 in that ballpark right now.
Yes, if it was last week.
We're having some sort of a weird phenomena of 90, low 90s or whatever. But, he's lucky that it'll loosen him up, though, won't it?
Yes, it will, yeah. I think he
shouldn't have any trouble getting loose. If he can't get loose in this weather, you can forget it.
Yeah, and speaking about the Giants, I mean, again, this is really a crucial week for them when you look at their schedule as a whole, because this week both series are against winning teams, the Brewers, and then finishing off with the Royals this weekend.
Yeah, big test for the Giants, though, because the Brewers are hanging pretty tough. They have some. They're not in the limelight, but they're playing a little better than you think, even though they've given up some of the lead. On the other hand, the Royals. But you know what? I think at the end of the season, I'm gonna look back and say, you know what? Harold, your Royals they're a competitive team, but they're basically a 500 team. They're 3, 4, 5, and right back down to a game or two under, and they just don't have. They don't play consistently good ball. They have defensive lapses, and then they just don't have it. And so this is like the 5th or 6th year in a row now that the Royals are getting pegged as one of these big contenders. They might get in there. They've got an extra wild card spot in there, and I guess just about anybody, if you get hot and get lucky, you can get in there, but they're not going to win it.
Yeah, and before we leave the Giants, one thing that I noticed this morning, this is kind of going inside the numbers a little bit, but this is something that I noticed a little bit of red flag, and I want to see how much you value this. one of the things that I noticed in looking at the Giants' upcoming schedule, again, noticing that they play a team like the Brewers this week, that's a first-place team with a winning record, I went back and I was looking how they'd been doing in recent series against winning teams. And as it turns out, the last time the Giants won a series against a winning team was the beginning of June against the Reds. And since then, they've lost some of these series to the likes of the A's, the Cardinals, the Dodgers, the Pirates. I mean, these are all teams that are.
That's why I said this is a big test for them against the Brewers, because they're a front-running club, and the Giants are looking for other people to step up their game, and to keep them, in contention until they get a couple of more bodies back.
Yeah, and kind of get that sense of all hands on deck, because even when you look at their offensive production this year, it's been this guy's been hitting while these guys haven't. And right now, Pablo Sandoval's been doing a great job for them, where he wasn't so much in the beginning of the year. And then you can see to a degree he's picking it up where other guys like, say, Michael Morris and such aren't hitting as well at this point in the season. So
it's just kind of they have not been able to just put all the pieces together is what the problem is. We always talk about that. It's a tough thing, man. You got to get pitching and the defense and the rotation, the bullpen, all these different parts of the game, and people's injuries and trades, and it's a very difficult thing. It's I know from being on the player side of it, you overlook kind of like who you're playing to some degree. You don't try to read too much into too little or too much. You just got to try to go out each day and try to do a little bit better than you did the day before, and try to win those games.
Yeah, well, and again,
one game at a time.
The great thing about it is that they're still very much in it, like you said, without having put all the pieces together at this point. So, and then of course, down south, like you mentioned in the last segment, we've got a little bit of a congested freeway series going on.
It's going to turn into a parking lot.
Yes, it is
down there pretty soon. It won't be the freeway series; it'll be the parking lot series. That's what's coming.
Yeah, and again, like I said, the Dodgers ran into Garrett Richards and his stuff last night. I mean, he just put forth a fine performance.
That breaking ball he's got is unhittable.
Yes,
it is. When he's on with it, I'm sorry, but an 89 or 90 mile an hour breaking ball, you're not going to hit it if it's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and you could see even last night in the ninth inning, you had Houston Street warming up in the bullpen, but you could see, again, Scioscia's confidence in his starter. I mean, his stuff was just working well at that point. Why go away from it, And so again, the first blow goes to the Angels, and I thought it was an also interesting game because there was a little bit of a big league lesson going on within the game, as of course many people had seen, that little moment of Puigness, if you will, and it's
soap opera continues, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
But again, hey, give him a little bit of. You got to give him time, to figure. He's not going to figure it out overnight. But I like what Pujols did, and he basically said, "Hey, don't be. This is the big leagues. Don't be. You're not going to play like that.
Yep.
Just play. If you're going to play like a superstar, then play like one all the time, and don't play like a dog whenever you want, and step on the gas whenever you want. If you're going to play like a superstar, then play. Be one all the time.
Yeah.
Basically, what he said to him, and just another wake up call for him, but
well, I think it points to the urgency of again, when the Dodgers, you're looking at him probably as their most important offensive player. He's a guy that can do a little bit of everything. He's got the power, the speed, hits for average, does all these things, and so you need him. I think that he's lucky that he can get a lesson like this in August as opposed to October, I think.
Yeah, but they want Matt Kemp to get. He's quietly, I think, doing some stuff with the bat, and I think you're gonna. If he keeps doing what he does, he can carry the ball club because you're not going to stop Adrian Gonzalez from hitting for average. He's going to continue to get his hits. And same with the shortstop, Ramirez. These guys are good hitters, and they're professional hitters. They're going to get their hits and get on. And I think you're looking for Kemp to come in there and start really doing his runner-up MVP style play. That I think maybe he's gotten over. He's built the old bridge and got over the little thing down there, because I'm telling you, there was, and I don't know because I wasn't down there. We're not there, and we're not as close to them as we are. But I could see that some stuff was going on between him and Mr. Mattingly, the manager, and some other stuff, and his injuries. And I guess he's in there now every night.
Mm-hmm.
And so quietly you see him doing stuff, I think. And I think that's going to be the key.
Well, and it's very important when you look at their schedule over the next couple of weeks. They've got the Angels now, Brewers this weekend, followed by the Braves, and then back to Milwaukee to play the Brewers. I mean, that's a lot of, that's just...
Because Puig is he's just so unpredictable. You don't know when. You know you're going to get it, but you don't know when you're going to get it.
Yeah.
He could... So you're better off having the nucleus of your team, these guys that have been there, get at their game, get at the top of their game, because if they're at the top of their game, then they're doing some big things. And he'll either figure it out and join in and jump on the wagon, or he'll take his licks and figure it out. But he's going to do some damage. He's a dangerous guy, So
Yeah.
you don't know, like I say, when he's going to do it, but he is going to do some stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, I think, of being the equivalent of being in a garage and having this rocket car. And you know what? You say, here's this rocket car, and it doesn't always quite fire up the way that it should, but when it runs, oh my gosh, And I think that's what you've still seen with Puig. And like you said, this is still a learning process. This is still, his second season in the majors. But I think
what he reminds me of? He reminds me of the dog that when you go to the dog track and you look in the program, and you can't tell whether that dog is on the rail in the first turn or goes wide on the first turn. You can't figure that out. It's colliding. It's on the rail one time. It's blowing. You don't know.
Yeah.
That is what he reminds me of.
Yeah, and I think the misconception that happens with that is that when you have these flashes of doing these amazing things early on, I think that the expectations raise to where people start saying, well, why shouldn't you be doing this at all times? Again, to where the brain farts, if you will, those things go under the microscope like they did last night.
He's a funny guy, though. I think it'd be interesting at some point in time, where to get around him and see what he's like around the cage and whatnot.